Allora, possiamo iniziare, penso. So, it is a great pleasure and honor having with us the Japanese ambassador, His Excellency Satoshi Suzuki, that will make the third seminar in our cycle that we launched with the German ambassador and then French ambassador, and now the Japanese ambassador. So the first non-European ambassador to take part to our events. In March, we will have the honor of having with us the Indian ambassador and then Brazilian ambassador. So we are opening the screen of our associazione to a world that is changing rapidly and has very different views, different interests. So it is very important to have such guests in our associazione. I would like to thank, as usual, Università Guglielmo Marconi, who is represented here by Professor Masera, and the pro-rettrice will join us. So she just arrived, so thank you for being here. So I think that Giappone, la professoressa Gelfo.
Nice to meet you.
So I think that the partnership between Università Guglielmo Marconi and Associazione Guido Carli is making very good fruits. And today we will give floor to the Japanese ambassador that will be focusing on mainly on economics issues. This is very, very important for a number of reasons. And it is very interesting, especially for Italy and Italian researchers, for a number of reasons, I said. First of all, Japan, same as Italy, is the evidence of a tremendous economic success. Both countries, for decades, grew at a yearly rate more than 6%. More than 6% per year for more than 20 years. This is an extraordinary success, and two countries that were somehow underdeveloped, according to the industrialized countries, became two wealthy and rich countries. And these countries have some similarity because they have a difficult geography. Japan is an island, as large as Italy, more or less. We are a peninsula with Alps that are making us kind of isolated from the rest of Europe, no natural resources. And so the two countries made their own success by the creativity of the entrepreneurs, Italian entrepreneurs, Japanese entrepreneurs, and by the ability of Japanese workers and Italian workers to be able to compete on the international arena. And this proves that when countries are, the economic policy of a country is managed properly, the economic success is possible. However, in both countries for the last 30 years, 3 decades, this tremendous growth capacity disappeared. So for 3 decades, these two countries are not growing any longer. The population is becoming older and older in both countries. So there are some similarities, but I think there are also different explanations for this lack of growth of these last 30 years. In Japan, there are signs of a different now future. So it seems that the Japanese economy is starting to grow again, and a Japanese ambassador will be focusing on all these aspects. The last thing that make me very happy of having the ambassador here is that the relationships between Italy and Japan are traditionally very positive. The Bank of Italy, since the 60s, used to make constant visits to the Bank of Japan, and there are traditionally excellent relationships that have been made stronger and stronger by the fact that in the international forum, the two delegations sit one close to the other, because I and J are one close. So there are also personal relationships that are very important in making a better understanding of each other. And these two countries that have some similarities have profound differences in terms of culture, and of course all the countries are beautiful and have some interesting things to show, but I don't know whether you have been to Japan. I believe that Japan is one of the most fascinating countries that I've visited so far, and so it's very, very interesting to me now listening the ambassador for his speech. But before giving floor to him, I would like to give floor to the pro-rector for the institutional welcome to the ambassador.
Thank you so much. And it's a great pleasure for me to welcome everyone, and in particular the ambassador. Thank you.
No, mi sa che questo è per parlare alla platea e questo per parlare.
Okay. Okay. The ambassador of Japan to Italy, Satoshi Suzuki. I bring you the greetings of Director, Professor Marco Abate, who unfortunately could not be here today, but expresses great satisfaction regarding these fruitful opportunities for international dialogue. We find ourselves in a very complex period in history, in reference to countless aspects of our reality. The interaction between different cultures is a fundamental basis for a shared understanding of the international context, aimed at building ideas and solutions that can meet the specific needs of different countries. Analyzing and reflecting together on the times we are living is essential for constructing a better future. Also, I'm extremely happy to know that many young people are participating in these meetings. It is indeed a primary object of ours to give an international dimension to the training of students and PhD candidates, so that the development of knowledge and skills enables them to navigate their future paths by easily and successfully interacting with different cultures. So, thank you for this initiative and have a good meeting.
Thank you very much, Professor Gelfo. And thank you very much for mentioning the attention that we, both institutions, give to the young researcher, because this is the idea that make this cycle happen. So thank you very much. Ambassador, please. Parlerà dal podio. Noi.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I'm very honored to be here to share some of my views with you all today. And actually, tomorrow I'm going back to Tokyo to get prepared for the very important visit of your president, President Mattarella, visiting for the first time Japan officially. And I will be accompanying him in Tokyo, Kyoto, and Hiroshima. So I am sure that visit will be a big success. So I'm very excited now. But for today, I'd like to share what Japan has gone through in the past 3 decades, as Mr. Carli kindly mentioned. Since I came here to London more than 2 years ago, people who I met always say that, hey, Japan is quite a beautiful country and a high-tech IT country and country of innovation. That used to be, but unfortunately, due to the stagnation of the past 3 decades, our shining reputation to some extent was tarnished, to be very frank. But I just like to guide you to look at what actually Japan has gone through, more or less factual based. I mean, analytical parts, too complicated and too complicated to share with you in a very limited time. So I just look at the factual base. So without further ado, let me go straight to my presentation. First, this is contents. First, just quick look at economic stagnation in the past 3 decades, and then recently we have signs of change toward, of course, a better direction and shift from a virtuous cycle. We are making efforts now to make sure that it will be shifting for certain to a virtuous cycle. And the fourth, kind of lessons from our experience to be shared with Italy, because as was mentioned by Mr. Carli, Japan and Italy share a lot in common, many say good things and bad things. So I hope my presentation will be some help for you to understand. Then first, let us first look at overall economic situation in the past 30 years. I'm not sure this is clear enough, but this is okay, never mind. The left side is a trend or transition of nominal GDP based on 1991 as 100, and looking at now, I think the other end is 2023. And Japan is the bottom line, black line, more or less horizontal, whereas the US is the top, more than 4 times, in the 30 years. This is because of the burst of bubble economy, so-called, in the early 90s. The Japanese economy since then has stagnated. And Japan is the only G7. This is a comparison among G7 countries. G7 countries where nominal GDP as well as CPI, the right-hand side graph is showing transition of CPI, Consumer Price Index, among G7 countries. Again, Japan is at the bottom, not more or less increasing. and the US on top, more than double, and Italy, I think, close to US number 2 in terms of CPI. The prices got doubled in these 3 decades. And next page, you can see the nominal wages increase and investment. Left side is wages increase among G7 countries. Again, Japan is at the bottom, the black one. It did not even increase when it comes to wages. Italy, in your case, it's more or less doubled. I think in the middle, orange line is representing Italy. And the US tripled in terms of wage increases. And investment, right-hand side, nominal investment increase. Again, Japanese investment did not increase, whereas other countries like Canada on top and the US second, they are more than 4 times, UK more than 3 times, Italy more than twice. So this is clear indication that Japan has been lagging behind other G7 countries. And the next slide, this is about price change, focusing on price changes to indicate distribution of price changes. This is just snapshot of 2019, how spread, distributed the price increases. The left-hand side is indicated Japan's case. The median line, the most frequent price change is focusing on 0, namely virtually no price increase. Whereas in the case of the United States, it's the median line is plus 3%. So at this point, 2019, the most frequent price increase is around 3% in the case of US. And the Eurozone, the right-hand side, it's around plus 1%. So, gradual price increases have been observed in other countries, whereas Japan has not seen any increase. So next slide. This is, I'm not sure you can clearly see. This is a conceptual dialogue to show how a vicious cycle, what we call cost-cutting economy, worked. You can start whichever, from the top or from the bottom. But anyway, from the top, deflation of 0, inflation becomes norm, kind of. Then companies do not raise selling prices because, selling prices of goods and services because, consumers do not buy it. Then cut production cost by deferring wage raises or investment to survive competition among domestic competitors or against foreign competitors. And then, because of this low wages, households cannot make good consumption without wage hikes because disposable income has not, does not increase. And on the other hand, companies, of course, companies' competitiveness or productivity does not really improve without investment, domestic investment. Then, as a result, the overall economy stagnates. Then we go back to the first one, then deflation or increase. So this is a kind of, cheap cycle of cost-cutting economy. And let me show how cheap now Japan is. Many people use Big Mac index. In Japan, last November, Big Mac, you can buy it at $3.19 US, 3.19, whereas in the US, 5.69. And in Europe, in Eurozone, $6.06. Tokyo 3.19. That is a cheap country, and even Korea, even China sells Big Mac at a higher price. As you remember, Tokyo used to be a very expensive city in 1990s. Perhaps among 5 most expensive cities like New York, Paris, London. But unfortunately, these days, Japan or Tokyo is ranked 49th because of this cost cutting and vicious cycle. Then as a summary, let us look at this chapter. Japan's economy hasn't grown for 3 decades. Not only GDP, but also prices, wages, and investments, they have not increased either. So as a result, deflation becomes a norm, and Japan has been entrapped in a vicious cycle of cost-cutting economy. And I said at the outset that I do not go into details of analysis why this happened, but perhaps many of you may have questions why wages did not increase or companies did not increase investment. There are many different views. Actually, we still have very heated discussions regarding the causes of this 3-decade deflation or stagnation. I just mentioned briefly some of them because my personal view is that this is a combined effects of multiple factors behind it. First, as I mentioned, this started with a burst of bubble economy. The first reason is that long-lasting chilling effect of burst of the bubble. I mean, consumer chilling effect or investor chilling effect, because they have to repay the borrowing loans when they made during the bubble economy. So they refrain from spending money on consumer goods or in investment. The second factor may be the long-term paralysis or collapse of lending institutions, including banks and non-banks, because of this bubble economy. They did not lend enough money to companies to make investment. And the third element may be excessive high appreciation of the yen during 90s and even 21st century. This is an external factor. This is not a fault of Japan itself, but this is an external one. As you can remember, 1985, they had a Plaza Agreement. Then Japanese yen plunged from 240 to 150. And then 1995, within 10 years, the value of yen became 79. So that means triple. The yen appreciated triple. That means exporting commodities from Japan, the prices got tripled. So that's why exporting companies cannot sell their products very well. And wages calculated in the US dollars became 3 times. So Japanese companies tend to think that they have to invest abroad instead of doing it domestically. Then they started to establish production bases abroad because labors are quite cheap in Northeast Asia or China. They created lots of plants and factories there. And of course, this has another negative impact. But anyway, this law, in addition to this, Japanese companies did not make enough investment in capital, labor capital, I mean human capital or capacity building, or reskilling of employees or even IT area during this past 30 years. Again, they have to keep their internal reserves to maintain good financial status instead of spending money for their employees. that had a negative impact of increase of productivity. And perhaps another reason is that strategy failure of the Japanese companies. This is my personal view. Japan tried to compete with emerging Asian new economies like China, Korea, Thailand, Vietnam even, for cost-cutting products. Rather, like US or Germany, we should have taken a route to produce high value added stuff rather than cutting prices of daily commodities, because this is not really making our economy bigger. And of course, another factor could be low labor distribution. This is quite a unique phenomenon to Japanese economy. This is the reason behind why we maintained a low wage level. I mean, Japanese companies, at average, generally speaking, they do not distribute their earnings or profits to their employees. Rather, they invest in other areas. And therefore, labor cannot get enough skills, and hence, low, still maintain low productivity. This is partly due to long working practice. I mean, lifelong employment used to be our common standard. So workers, as long as they continue to work for one particular company, their life is ensured, and they will get enough money later when they are in 50s or even 60s. But at a young age, 20s, 30s, they did not get enough wages, but they put up with that. That is a very unique, I think, aspect of Japan. Anyway, those are the factors I'd like to mention so that you could further dig in when you go back to your office or company or university. But anyhow, let me then look at the next slide. This is a recent new phenomenon in the past 2 years and a half, quite positive change. The price increases since 2022, virtually February 2022. You remember, this is the start of Ukraine war. Then energy price increased. Then, our import goods prices went up. Then inevitably, this CPI, before 2022, it did not reach 2%. 2%, incidentally, was a target inflation rate set by central government of Central Bank of Japan, but they haven't achieved it until 2022. Then, because of this external factor, high oil prices or other energy prices, then the CPR reached 2% and then went beyond. And very fortunately, maintained it in the past 32 consecutive months. This is a new phenomenon. Give us some hope that we could finally get out of stagnation, vicious cycle. But please look at this slide. We did have similar, short-term spikes of CPI before, during the past 3 decades, like 1997 or 2008 or 2014. But as you can see, the prices went back to the lower level very shortly. So the price increases did not continue. So this is a very vicious aspect of trap of stagnation cycle. And if we look at the next slide, the reason why this time's price increases is different is that this time price increases is accompanied by wage increase. The upper line is indicating wage increase rate. As of 1990, it was 5.66. Well, then going down, and then last 2023, 3.58, and then 2024, last year, 5.10. This is an agreed basis on negotiations. And CPI from 2.9, 1990, then ups and down, then as of 2024, as of 2023, I think 3.1. So this indicates that this time's price increases are different from previous one, and we could have a hope. And actually, this 5.1 wage increase is the highest level in the past 33 years. And next slide is, this is a little bit technical one, but this is a comparison with the previous price change distribution. But the point is, you can take a look at the red line. The peak is in the positive domain, not zero or not negative domain. So price increases are widely distributed these days. This is a snapshot of 2024, August. So this shows that not only energy prices and import commodity prices, but also other commodities prices are increasing now. So to sum up this section 2, now recently Japanese economy started to show signs, just signs. So we have to make sure that this will be materialized eventually. And price hike is leading to wage increases. And as I mentioned, more diverse items. Then what our government is doing. Next slide is showing what, this is a sort of a statement of our cabinet as of November last year. Japanese economy is now a crossroads, whether it can break from previous long-lasting cost-cutting economy and can shift to growth-oriented and high-value economy driven by wage increases and active domestic investment. Like active domestic investment like infrastructure, IT, digital transformation, semiconductors, and AI, of course. They are the industries or sectors which could lead our economy back to the previous level. And next slide, again, this is a conceptual diagram regarding growth-oriented and high-value adding economy. Perhaps there is no need to explain further. Once price increases have been assured, then companies can raise wages and investment, and they have positive impact. This is a chart. And then let me move to government measures to push and to make sure a shift to a virtuous cycle, a virtuous cycle. First, encouraging wage increases, of course, setting a goal of 1,500 yen per hour. This is roughly calculated 9.3 euros per hour. This is a minimum wage level by the mid-2030s. I understand that in Italy, you tried to set minimum wages 9 euro last year, but they failed to have agreement on that. So this is a very sensitive figure, I think, even in Japan. And of course, we need to improve gender pay gap. Unfortunately, in Japan, we have a gap between payments for female workers and male workers. And I'm sure Italy too. In our case, 21.3% difference between female payment and male payment. That is quite awful. That I think at this moment we should address this issue in order to encourage more women, capable women, to join our economic activities. And then second category is price or cost pass-through. I mean, companies previously tried to push the cheaper stuff to their subcontractors or affiliated companies instead of raising the prices of commodities or services. But a government will strictly enforce Anti-Monopoly Act by pushing those companies to really pass through the labor cost to their commodity prices. And they make activities more strict, and they will issue some warnings to companies that did not adhere this guideline or policies. By the way, in Japan, guideline or advice by the government agencies are really effective. Normal people really observe and companies observe. So it's more or less like a legal tool for the government, which is again quite a unique factor. But anyhow, the next slide. The first one, left-hand side, is what we have seen at the outset, nominal GDP. The Japan is at the bottom. Then right-hand side, real GDP. Not very much different, but this time, Japan and Italy are quite similar in terms of real GDP. And if we take a look at the next slide, this is real GDP per capita on the left-hand side. Then Japan is a bit better than Italy. Italy, unfortunately, at the bottom. When we calculated per capita, per workers in terms of number. But still, Japan, Italy are lower than other G7 countries. And then real GDP per hour worked. What would happen? This is right-hand side. Now, Japan is not really bad. I mean, in the middle, only next to US and UK. Japan is third. If we look at real GDP per hour worked. But in case of Italy, unfortunately, Italy now is the bottom. This has something to do with labor productivity, the last one. So this is a sort of point I'd like to stress today, labor productivity. That is quite crucial and important. And if we take a look at the next slide and left-hand side, this is hour worked, actual hours worked. The bottom line is Japan, black one. So total worked hours has been decreasing in the domain of minus, I mean negative domain. It's quite clear. Real GDP equal per hour labor productivity multiplied by actual hour worked. This is labor input. Even though labor productivity is not bad, but actual hour worked is low, then real GDP cannot go up. This is a quite simple equation, I think. So question is the labor input. Why labor input did not increase accordingly? So next slide is showing the major factors. The first one is, getting out of norm. That is what I explained. The second point, decrease in labor input is due to declining birth rate and aging population. That is quite commonsensical. And this factor is common to Japan as well as Italy. And what can we do? The next slide. is talking about measures to address this decline in labor input. Of course, first option, increase labor input. We can take internal solution, like encouraging birth rate or employing more senior citizens after retirement age, or employing foreigners, like immigrants. But that would have a political or domestic impact. So I think the second option, increase labor productivity, is a feasible and realistic approach to address this issue shortly. And next slide, this is a bit technical one, but just one word. This is a labor-saving investment. If we invest in certain areas like robotics or automation, IT, they can save this percentage. Overall percentage is 16.6 on the left-hand side, labor saving investment. And the specific examples are shown in the next slide. This is, of course, facilitating wider use of AI, robotics, and other automation technologies. Because this has immediate impacts or effects. And of course, for SMEs, they are not really have expertise in those areas. I think government or other big companies should give consultation or advice or support to make investment in those areas. But in case small SMEs, they cannot do this, I think they have to get out of the business. I mean, this exit strategy needs to be implemented. This will have exit effect on overall economy. In the past, Japanese society was quite nice, and they tried to save those companies whose performance was not really good. But in order to save them, just give subsidies and other means. But in terms of proceeding with structural reform, I think non-performing SMEs should get out of the market. That is a very cool statement, but that is theoretically right approach. The small examples are here. Delivery robots. This is quite good for rural area. Only senior citizens are living, but they order goods and services by e-commerce. Then delivery persons cannot reach out those small villages. Then automatic delivery robot can be used. Or at the right-hand side, this is showing automatic guided towing tractor, which are used in the airports. This tractor is pulling or pushing airplanes at the airport. This is an automated one. Very dangerous, dirty, and hard works will be replaced by robotics or automation. So this is, I think, future measures to address the issue of lack of laborers or shortage of work hours. So in summary, Japan's stagnation has been partly because, I'm not saying that this is entirely because of the decline in labor input, but obviously partly caused by decline in labor input due to aging population or low birth rate. By the way, you cannot change birth rate easily, or even if you can raise birth rate from now 1.2 to 2.0, it will have actual impact only after 20 years or 15 years. It's not the immediate solution. And so I think this is a common issue for Italy and Japan, and namely improving productivity and innovation, introduction of innovation and DX. And I think for these areas, there are plenty of potentials for our two countries to collaborate and to cooperate. Thank you very much for kind listening.
thank you very much, Ambassador, for your presentation. I believe that especially economists, Rainer Masera, I saw Luigi Paganetto, have many things to ask and to discuss with you, because I really think that the last points, the productivity issue is key, and the investment as the solution for this issue is exactly the same that we have here in Italy. Now, we traditionally in this cycle of seminars give floor to our young researchers for some questions. So I would kindly ask Alessia Pauletti to come to the podium and make her question to the ambassador.
So, given the structural changes caused by the macroeconomic scenario, what are the future measures of the central bank to counter inflation in Japan and stimulate the economy?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I understand this question is about future measures of the central bank to take. Of course, theoretically speaking, the central bank may have options to raise a benchmark interest rate to curb an inflation, or to lower it to stimulate the economy to prevent deflation. But I didn't mention this during my presentation, but in the past 3 decades, Japanese government did not just observe what is going on. We took several measures like zero interest rate, or you may have heard Abenomics. This is a combination of easing financial policy and very bold government spending together with structural change. It was announced 2013. But even after more than 10 years, it did not show much effect on that. So to be honest, as I mentioned, there are options, but we did use it, but it did not have expected result or impact. And as I mentioned, Japan's economy is a very critical point, critical juncture, whether or not we could get out of this vicious cycle. And we have to make sure this trend of increasing CPI will be continued. So in my view, it's a little bit premature to consider or to talk about inflationary measures at this given moment. For the time being, I think it is quite critical not to disturb economy by artificial interventions, either by the government or the central bank. And of course, in my capacity as an ambassador, I should refrain from making any comments what to do or not to do for the Japanese central bank. But to be honest, my view is that it is quite important not to hastily raise benchmark interest rate, even though we have 3.1, 3.2 seemingly inflation phase. But I think we are not yet inflational area, because as I mentioned, this is triggered by energy price, external factors. This is cost push price increases, not demand pull cost increases. If domestic demands are getting very robust and increasing, that would create very good positive cycle. And then if prices go up too much, overheating, then central bank may think what to take. But at this moment, it is really premature for me to say what is right or what is not. But of course, theoretically speaking, there are some options. I hope this answers the question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Now, Federica Mucci to come here. To make things easier, Federica, come here so we...
Okay, so thank you very much, Ambassador. And my question is, what measures has the Japanese government implemented to address population aging and encourage private saving in order to reduce inflation?
Okay, thank you. For aging population, as I briefly mentioned, I think extension of retirement age is quite a simple measure to take. Currently, I think in terms of, at the point of 2022, the retirement age was 60 in Japan, a bit early. And then government has decided to expand or to extend this retirement age to 65 in 2031 in the case of government officials. So this is what we have been doing. And for private companies, there is a legal sort of obligation that private companies have to employ employees up until the age of 65. Used to be 60 or 62. Now, as of April this year, all the companies have obligations to give working opportunities for the employment up until 65. But in case of Italy, I think government officials can work up until 67 or so. So I think still there is a margin for Japan to extend. In terms of employment of senior citizen, I have some figures with me. Those who worked between age 65 to 69, I think 50.9% of the total senior citizens are employed now. And between 70 to 74, 33.5% are employed in Japan. But on the other hand, Italy, the former one, between 65 to 69, 13.8%. And 70 to 74 senior citizens, only 3.9%. So I think there is big room for Italian economy to employ more senior citizens if they wish to work or wish to continue to work. And also the second part of the question of private savings, again, this is a situation, that was a situation that individual households had enough savings during this vicious cycle, stagnation. Companies have enough internal reserves as savings during that past. The question is, households did not spend it for consumption, and companies did not spend for investment. That was an issue, the causes of the long stagnation. So I think saving, of course, is one of the point, but I think it is more. It should be more encouraged for households and companies to spend more in order to continue to giving stimulus to the economy. So I think at this moment we should not talk too much about saving, and I think 2% or 3% of price increases are comparatively reasonable one, and we should keep monitoring very closely what is going on in the near future. Thank you very much.
Ask Giulia Bonomo to come here for her question.
Thank you. So going back to section 4 of your speech, we saw that both Japan and Italy face a shrinking, aging population and also struggling rural areas. So is Japan treating this as an inevitable decline, or can an aging society be turned into an economic strength? And in your opinion, could rural revitalization become the unexpected driver of future growth?
Well, thank you very much again. Of course, this population decline, shrinking, this is sort of the fact given for us. We cannot get out of the current situation. As I mentioned, even though we take various measures to give subsidies or to tax reduction for young couples to give more chances to give birth, but it did not work quite well. And even if they gave birth to newborn babies, it would take 15 or 20 years for them to join our labor market. So I think it is very time-consuming measures. And of course, we have to take it for granted that the aging, we are in the aging society and in a declining population society. Then given that situation, I think what we can do is that, of course, as I mentioned, we should try efforts to increase it. But I think we could take a look at very positively because Italy and Japan are quite ahead in terms of dealing with this phenomenon, I mean aging society, earlier than other countries. So we could accumulate our views and experiences taking advantage of that first countries to tackle this. And then some entrepreneurs or startups come with new ideas that dealing with aging society with robotics or technologies like AI-based caregiving machines or some services, automated self-diagnosis system, or online long-distance, online distance medical service to address some of the issues of the senior citizens. And I think Japan and Italy can take a lead in this regard. And I think we could create a business model ahead of other countries, and then latecomer countries can follow this business model. This is my sort of positive response to your question. And the second part is a revitalization of the rural areas. And of course, regional diversity Italy has and Japan has. This is I think, advantage for us. So we should quite make use of this diversity, rural diversity, to further develop a very rural area. I have one quite good example of one small village with a population of just 1,500, so 1,500 population. And I think 93% of the land is covered by forest. And they have relied on forestry as a primary industry. But this forest industry has been obsolete quite a lot. But if they try to continue to sell timbers as they are, they cannot make a good business. But new entrepreneurs came into this village. I heard that 50 local venture business were created to produce value-added processed products out of woods and established a good value chain. So this small village could make such a business. So this is only one example, but there are many good points of each area, like hot springs or agritourism or fisheries, horticulture, whatever they could use for their advantage with the help of young businessmen, young minds, young ideas. I think this is still, we can revitalize our rural areas. That is my view. Thank you.
We have a last question, and I invite here Sofia Stefani.
Good evening, and first of all, thank you for the opportunity. And this is my question. Given the shared challenges of economic stagnation and declining labor input due to aging populations, how can Italy and Japan collaborate to drive innovation and boost productivity through shared investments in AI, robotics, and digital transformation?
Thank you very much. As I mentioned at the outset, to be frank, I think there are people who have some delusion about Japan. To be honest, we are not, Japan is not very advanced in terms of robotics, AI, but we are trying to tackle this a little bit belatedly. But I'm sure we can catch up with it very soon. To be honest, we are lagging behind other countries like US or even China in robotics, AI, digital transformation due to lack of investment. As I emphasized during my presentation, we extremely lacked volume of investment in the past 3 decades. Now it's time for us to catch up with other countries. And in my view, actually in the past 2 years since I came to Rome as ambassador, I had a chance to visit local places to see good examples of merger and acquisition. Hitachi Rail, that is a quite superb company to produce Frecciarossa or other city trains, and Yanmar. Yanmar used to be a producer for agricultural machines, but they are now focusing on biofuel or other researches together with the Japanese investment. And Takeda, of course, under the head of Italian CEO, they are dealing with innovating medicine for particular diseases. And Topcon is used to be a lens company, but they are now focusing on eye health analytical machines. And of course, Toray is a textile company, but I think many of you may have heard the Alcantara, that is upholstery for luxurious cars. And they are artificial leather. They invented and produced. So this is a good example of technical collaboration between Italy and Japan. And speaking of AI and IT, last year I visited Pavia near Milano, I think, where government, academia, and business of Italy put together their resources to create a hub of IT, I mean chips, semiconductors. And fortunately, Japanese companies, Sony Imaging Laboratory is joining this project. Sony is quite strong in that area. And then even in Rome, I think in some vicinity of Rome, I heard that Sony Computer Science Laboratory which is now focusing on AI application, researching on AI application under the Italian scientist. So I think this is an area that Italy and Japan can further promote to tackle these issues. And one last example is GCAP. GCAP is the project to develop next generation fighter aircraft together with Leonardo and British BAE and the Japanese Mitsubishi. This is a military project, but we are going to build future generation jet fighters from scratch. That will be associated with new inventions and new technologies and state-of-art technologies that would have a trickle-down effect on civil industries. So I'm sure this project up until 2035, this would have a very positive and significant impact on the development of AI, IT, digital areas between Japan and Italy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that this afternoon has been really, really fruitful for us and interesting. So thank you very much, Ambassador. I don't know whether Professor Gelfo would like to tell some concluding remarks.
Thank you so much. I think that this afternoon, this event has been a very, very fruitful occasion to our young people, and also for us to listen and learn some of very, very interesting contents. And so I want to thank the ambassador and all of us.
Thank you. Thank you.